If you have ever sat at the end of the month wondering where all the money went, you are not alone. If you promised yourself things would be different next month, then found yourself in the exact same spot 30 days later, you are definitely not alone in that either. But here is what almost nobody talks about. Money problems are rarely about money. They are about the absence of a system, a budget, a plan, a set of rules that run whether you feel motivated or not. I burnt out at 35 inside a corporate office that paid me well, but taught me nothing about keeping what I earned. I lost more than I want to admit before I learnt the truth. No raise, no windfall, no side hustle will save you if the system underneath is broken. I am 42 now. I live quietly. I owe no one. Not luck, a system, built one small decision at a time. This audiobook gives you 7 specific, practical ways to break the cycle permanently. Not by earning more overnight, by building the right financial architecture, starting with Way 1 today. 10 chapters. 1 roadmap. No fluff. Let us begin. Chapter 1. Are money problems really money problems? There is a question most people never ask themselves before they try to fix their finances. They skip it. They rush past it. They open a spreadsheet, download a budgeting app, cut up a credit card, promise themselves that this time it will be different, and 30 days later they are exactly where they started, sometimes worse. The question they skipped is this: is the problem actually money? Or is it something else that wears money as a disguise? I want you to consider 2 people. Both earn the same salary, same city, same rent, same age. One of them ends the year with savings, no consumer debt, and a small investment account beginning to grow. The other ends the year in the red, chasing minimum payments, telling anyone who will listen that the cost of living is impossible. Same income, 2 entirely different financial lives. The difference is not the number on the paycheck. The difference is what happens between the paycheck arriving and the paycheck disappearing. The truth is, money problems are rarely arithmetic problems. They are relationship problems. They are habit problems. They are system problems. The number is the symptom. The mindset behind the number is the cause. I learnt this the hard way. In my late 20s, I was earning more than most of my friends and saving less than any of them. Every raise disappeared inside a lifestyle that expanded to match it. Every bonus was already spent before it arrived. I told myself I had a math problem. I did not. I had a mindset problem, and the math was simply broadcasting it back to me every month. Consider Dave Ramsey. Millions of people know him today as a financial teacher. Few remember that he was bankrupt at 26. He had built a real estate portfolio worth millions in his early 20s, leveraged himself beyond what any careful person would tolerate, and lost it all. When he tells the story now, he does not point to the market, the timing, or the bad luck. He points to the mindset. He was operating on the belief that money was something that happened to him, that he could ride the wave, that the debt did not matter because the returns would always exceed it. The turning point was not a new income stream. It was a decision to change how he thought about money before he ever tried to make more of it. That sequence matters. Mindset first, system second, numbers third. Reverse the order, and you build on sand. So before we go into the 7 ways, I want you to spend 5 minutes on something simple and uncomfortable. Ask yourself this: when you think about money, what is the first emotion that arrives? Is it fear, stress, guilt, shame, a tight feeling in the chest? Or is it calm, strategic, tool-based thinking? Whatever answer arrives first is the mindset you are currently operating from, and a stressed mindset makes every financial decision reactive. It buys to soothe, it hides from statements, it avoids the numbers because the numbers hurt. A neutral mindset does the opposite. It opens the statement, it reads the numbers, it asks what to do next. Same person, different operating system, completely different financial future. This is where most people stop. They feel the emotion, they identify it as a threat, and they close the tab. They will read another article next week, feel the same emotion, and close that tab too. Months become years, years become decades, and they wonder why nothing changed. You are going to do something different. You are going to see money as a neutral tool. A hammer does not define the carpenter. A brush does not define the painter. Your bank balance does not define you. What defines your financial future is how intentionally you use the tool in your hand. From today, whenever you face a financial decision, small or large, I want you to replace your first emotional response with one question. What does this decision do to my financial system? Not, do I want this? Not, can I afford this? Ask, what does this decision do to my system? That question is small. That question is quiet. That question is the beginning of every financial change I have ever seen actually hold. Write down one sentence tonight. What is your current emotional relationship with money? Then write one sentence about the relationship you want to build with it. Keep it near you as we move through the next 9 chapters, because the strategies ahead will only work as well as the mind they land inside. Chapter 2. Why we keep coming back to financial trouble. If mindset is the foundation, then the next question is what keeps that foundation cracked? Because the cycle you feel yourself living inside, the same money problems arriving in a slightly different costume every year, is not random. It is not bad luck. It is not because you are lazy or careless. It repeats because of 3 specific mechanisms that most people are never taught to see. Learn to name them, and you can begin to disarm them, miss them, and they will keep running your financial life whether you notice them or not. The first mechanism is lifestyle inflation. Every time your income rises, your spending rises to meet it. A raise arrives. Within 90 days, a new subscription, a bigger apartment, a nicer car payment, dining out 1 extra night a week. On paper, you are richer. In reality, you have the same gap between income and expenses that you had before, only at a higher number. The problem did not shrink. The number in front of it grew. The second mechanism is emotional spending, purchases used to manage feelings rather than to meet needs. Stress arrives. You order something you did not plan to order. Boredom arrives. You scroll, click, and confirm. Social pressure arrives. You match a friend's dinner, a friend's trip, a friend's upgrade. The relief is real, and it lasts about as long as a delivery notification. The drain on your financial system is permanent. The third mechanism is financial illiteracy. Not stupidity, not weakness, simply the absence of an education that our schools rarely provide. Most adults cannot explain how compound interest works, cannot calculate the true cost of a credit card balance carried for a year, cannot distinguish between an appreciating and a depreciating asset, and a person operating without those fundamentals is not making financial decisions. They are guessing and hoping the guess turns out well. Look honestly at your last 2 years. Ask yourself 3 questions. Did your spending expand every time your income expanded? Did you make any significant purchases specifically because you were stressed, bored, or under social pressure? Did you make any financial commitment whose full mathematical consequence you did not actually understand? A yes to any of those confirms the mechanisms are active, and the mechanisms strengthen the longer they run without being named. Studies of lottery winners tell this story with an almost cruel clarity. Research spanning multiple decades has shown that the majority of major lottery winners return to their prior financial level within about 5 years. Many are worse off than before they won. The money was not the problem. The absence of a system was the problem. Lifestyle inflation expanded instantly. Emotional spending amplified with every dollar available. Financial illiteracy meant the larger amount was simply mismanaged at a larger scale. Money without a system does not fix anything. It accelerates whatever pattern is already running. I have seen this destroy people, not lottery winners, ordinary people who received a bonus, an inheritance, a promotion, and within 2 years were more anxious about money than they had been before the windfall. Because more money poured into a broken system produces a bigger mess, not more freedom. The truth is, you cannot out-earn a broken system. You can only rebuild the system and then let earnings do their real work on top of it. So this week, do one thing. Look at last month's spending. Find one specific purchase that belonged to emotional spending rather than genuine need. Do not judge it. Do not shame yourself for it. Simply name it. That single naming is your first crack in the cycle. Every subsequent naming will crack it further. Because now you know why you keep returning to the same seat, staring at the same screen, and you are about to be handed the first tool that changes it. Chapter 3. Method number 1. The 50-30-20 formula. Every financial system needs a spine, a structure so simple you can hold it in your head without effort, and so reliable you can run your life on it for decades. Most people never find that spine because they try to build something too complicated to maintain. They open a spreadsheet with 40 categories. They track every coffee. They last 3 weeks. Then they quit and they call themselves bad with money. They are not bad with money. They picked a system that no working human could sustain. The truth is, a budget is the single most reliable financial tool available to anyone at any income level, but only if the budget is simple enough to survive a bad week. The 50-30-20 formula does exactly that. 3 categories, 3 percentages. That is the whole system. 50% of your after-tax income goes to needs, rent or mortgage, groceries, utilities, essential transport, insurance, the things that keep the lights on and the doors closed behind you at night. 30% goes to wants, dining out, entertainment, subscriptions, travel, hobbies, the things that make life more than survival, without which discipline curdles into resentment. 20% goes to financial goals, savings, debt repayment above the minimums, investing. This is the portion that quietly builds your future, while the other 80% runs your present. 3 categories. That is it. If you are within each category, you are within your budget. You do not need to know whether the coffee was $3 or $4. You need to know whether the total for the wants category held. The name behind this discipline is Warren Buffett, who put it in a single sentence that I want you to hear twice. Do not save what is left after spending. Instead, spend what is left after saving. Read it again. That single reordering is the entire secret. Most people spend first and save whatever survives, which is usually nothing. Wealthy people save first and spend whatever is left, which is usually enough. Here is how you apply this. Take last month's after-tax income, multiply it by 0.50. That is your needs number. Multiply it by 0.30. That is your wants number. Multiply it by 0.20. That is your financial goals number. Now pull last month's actual spending, category by category, and compare. The gap between the formula and the reality is the exact map of where your money is leaking. Do this before the next month begins, not after. A budget built at the start of the month is a plan. A budget built at the end of the month is an autopsy. One directs the future. The other only explains the past. Automate the 20% on payday. Move it before you see it. Move it before your mind has the chance to argue with it. A savings transfer that leaves your account within 1 hour of payday will happen. A savings transfer left to the end of the month is a savings transfer that will not. Do not turn this into a punishment. Do not track every individual purchase in obsessive detail. The system works at the category level. Obsessive tracking turns a tool into a cage, and no one lives inside a cage for long. I have watched clients try to run a 40-category spreadsheet for 6 months, burn out, and abandon budgeting for 2 years afterward because they associated it with exhaustion. I have also watched clients run the 50-30-20 for 10 years, adjust it once or twice as their lives changed, and quietly build the financial base that everything else grew from. The second group did not have more discipline. They had a simpler system that did not demand heroic discipline in the first place. Calculate your 3 numbers tonight. Write them on paper. Compare them to last month. Circle the category that is furthest off. That is where the next 30 days of your attention go. Because now you can see your money, and once you can see it, you will start to notice the small leaks you have been walking past for years. Chapter 4. Method number 2. Cutting the invisible costs. There are 2 kinds of expenses in your life, the ones you know about and the ones that quietly bleed you every month while you look the other way. Rent, you know. The car payment, you know. Groceries, you know. Those are the visible expenses, and most people can quote them within $10. The invisible expenses are the ones that never register as a single event. The streaming service you signed up for during a slow weekend and forgot to cancel. The app subscription that renewed after a free trial you do not remember starting. The delivery fee added to every order because you did not feel like walking 3 blocks. The $3 purchase that happens 6 times a week and therefore never feels like a real number. None of them feel like a problem. Together, they can consume 10 to 20% of your monthly spending with almost no conscious awareness. The truth is, wealth is not usually destroyed by one dramatic mistake. It is bled away by hundreds of small ones you never audited. Benjamin Franklin said it in 5 words that have outlived him by centuries. A penny saved is a penny earned. He was not writing about pennies. He was writing about attention, about the discipline of noticing what leaks, because what leaks unnoticed cannot be stopped. Here is the exercise that will surface the invisible expenses in your life. For the next 30 days, keep a spending diary, not a formal budget, a simple daily record of every single purchase, no matter how small. Item, amount, that is it, 2 columns. At the end of 30 days, sit down with the list and mark every expense with one of 3 labels: genuinely necessary, genuinely valuable, habitual, and forgettable. Anything in the 3rd column is a candidate for elimination. You will be surprised. Most people find at least 5 recurring subscriptions they had entirely forgotten about. Most find a daily small purchase pattern that, multiplied by 30 and then by 12, produces an annual amount that would have funded a real financial goal. A $5 habit, 5 days a week, is more than $1,300 a year. A $10 habit, 5 days a week, is more than $2,600. Those are not small numbers dressed up as small numbers. They are large numbers hiding as small numbers. Do not cancel everything in one burst of motivation. That is the pattern of the person who diets on Monday and quits on Friday. Instead, eliminate 2 or 3 unnecessary expenses per week. A calm reduction sustained for a year yields more permanent financial improvement than a dramatic cut that gets reversed within a month. Slow change holds. Fast change collapses. Review all recurring subscriptions on the first day of every month. If you did not actively use it that month, cancel it. You can always resubscribe if you find you actually miss it. Most of the time, you will not. Batch your online orders. Delivery fees are among the most expensive small charges in modern life and among the easiest to reduce. 1 order per week costs less than 5 orders per week and requires nothing more than a little planning. Multiply your daily small purchases by 30, then multiply by 12. Look at the annual number without flinching. The point is not to feel guilty. The point is to see clearly, because a habit you can see, you can choose. A habit you refuse to see chooses for you. Review your last month's statement tonight and find 3 recurring expenses you can eliminate this month without meaningfully affecting your quality of life. Add up the annual savings. Write that number down where you will see it. Let that number pay off debt, fund the emergency account, or begin the investment habit we are about to reach. Because the money you stop bleeding is money that becomes available for the thing you are about to build next. Chapter 5. Method number 3. Build the emergency fund. Every financial life eventually gets tested. The test does not announce itself. It arrives on a Tuesday in the form of a car that will not start, a diagnosis that changes everything, an appliance that dies the day before rent is due, a job that ends without warning. In that moment, one question decides whether the event becomes an inconvenience or a catastrophe. Do you have cash available right now that is not tied to any other purpose? Most adults do not. Studies from the Federal Reserve have shown, year after year, that a significant portion of households cannot cover a $400 emergency expense without borrowing. Not 4,000, 400. That is not a math problem. That is a system problem. And it turns every ordinary life event into a new debt, stacked on top of whatever debt already exists. The truth is, the single most common reason people go into debt, or stay in debt, is not overspending. It is the absence of a cash buffer between them and the ordinary chaos of life. An emergency fund does not earn extraordinary returns. It does something far more valuable. It turns unexpected crises into manageable inconveniences. It is your financial airbag. You hope you never need it. You are glad every day that it is there. Here is how you build one, even if you feel you have nothing to build it with. Open a separate savings account, ideally at a different institution from your checking account. That extra layer of friction is not accidental. It is protection. Give the account a name, emergency only. Do not attach it to a debit card. Do not include it in your day-to-day mental math. It is invisible until it is needed. Automate a transfer on payday before any spending decision is made, any amount, even $50. The first emergency fund I built started at $25 per paycheck. The number was small. The habit was the point. Begin with a target of 1 month of essential expenses: rent, food, utilities, transport. That is your first milestone. Once you hit it, extend to 3 months, then to 6. 6 months of essential expenses is not paranoia. It is the buffer that separates a bad month from a bad decade. One study followed households across a range of income levels for years and asked which single financial factor best predicted long-term financial stability. Not income, not education, not location. It was the presence of an emergency fund of at least $1,000. Households with that buffer were dramatically less likely to take on high-interest debt, miss bill payments, or fall into financial crisis cascades when an unexpected expense arrived. $1,000. That was the difference between resilience and collapse. Your emergency fund does not need to be large to begin protecting you. It needs to begin. Guard the definition of emergency strictly. A sale is not an emergency. A vacation is not an emergency. A social event you feel pressured to attend is not an emergency. Job loss, medical crisis, essential appliance failure, urgent car or home repair. That is the list. Keep it short, keep it protected. I have seen people build a small emergency fund, then spend it on a good deal at a store, and then face a real emergency 2 months later with nothing to draw from. Do not do that. The fund only works if it is untouchable, except in a true emergency. Calculate 3 months of your essential expenses tonight. That is your target. Divide by 12, and that is your monthly saving rate to reach it in a year. Set the transfer up this week, not next month, this week, because with a buffer in place, the next battle becomes possible. Without a buffer, the next battle simply adds to the pile you cannot climb out of. Chapter 6. Method number 4. The Smart Debt Solution. Debt is not one problem. It is a collection of separate obligations, each with its own interest rate, its own balance, and its own psychological weight. Treated as one giant blob, debt feels impossible. Broken into its components, debt becomes a project, and projects can be finished. There are two proven strategies for eliminating debt, and one of them is right for you. The wrong question is which one is better in theory. The right question is which one you will actually maintain until every balance reads 0. The first method is the snowball. You list your debts from smallest balance to largest, ignoring interest rates entirely. You pay the minimum on every debt except the smallest, and you attack the smallest with every extra dollar you have. When it is gone, you take the payment you were making on it, add it to the minimum on the next smallest, and attack that one, then the next. The math is not optimal. The psychology is powerful. Early wins create momentum, and momentum keeps people in the game long enough to finish it. The second method is the avalanche. You list your debts from highest interest rate to lowest, ignoring balances entirely. You pay the minimum on every debt except the one with the highest rate, and you attack that one with every extra dollar. When it is gone, you move to the next highest rate. The math is optimal. You pay the least total interest, and you finish faster in dollar terms. The psychology is harder, because your first target may be a large balance that takes months to move. Neither is universally better. The best method is the one you will maintain. Proverbs put it in one line thousands of years ago. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. Modern life does not soften that. If anything, the interest rates on consumer debt today would make ancient lenders blush. A credit card balance carried at 20-something% for years is not a purchase. It is a monthly tax you pay to your former self for a decision you probably no longer remember making. Here is the exercise. Complete a full debt inventory this week. Every debt you carry: credit cards, student loans, auto loans, personal loans, family loans, medical bills, everything. For each, write down 3 numbers: total balance, interest rate, minimum monthly payment. Now sort the list twice, once from smallest balance to largest, once from highest interest rate to lowest. Look at both lists side by side. If seeing debts disappear quickly will keep you fighting, choose the snowball. If the mathematics of interest reduction is what keeps your attention, choose the avalanche. Commit to one. Do not flip between them. Pay the minimum on every debt except your target. Put every extra dollar toward the target until it is eliminated. Then take the entire payment you were making on that debt and roll it onto the next target. This rolling acceleration is what makes both methods work. It is not the extra dollar you add. It is the compounding payment that grows as each debt falls. Now the harder rule. Take on no new debt while executing your plan. Before any new credit purchase, apply a mandatory 24-hour waiting period. Most impulse debt would not survive that pause. If you still want it in 24 hours, and you can pay for it from your budgeted wants category without credit, buy it. If you cannot, you have your answer. I learnt this the hard way. In my late 20s, I ran a credit card balance for almost 3 years, telling myself I would pay it off with the next bonus, and then the next, and then the next. Every bonus arrived and left, and the balance stayed. When I finally sat down and calculated what I had paid in interest over those 3 years, it was more than a used car, not a purchase I had made, just the price of carrying the balance. Complete your inventory tonight. Choose your method. Circle your first target. Every extra dollar next month goes there, because with the leaks sealed, the fund in place, and the debt project underway, You can finally begin to ask the question that changes everything. Not how do I spend less, how do I earn more? Chapter 7. Method number 5. Increase your earning potential. There is a ceiling to what management alone can do. You can cut every unnecessary expense, run the perfect budget, kill the debt, build the emergency fund, and still find yourself constrained if the income coming in is genuinely too small for the life you are trying to build. Management has limits. Earnings do not, at least not in the same way. For most of the last century, the way to increase income was to work more hours or wait longer for the next raise. Neither is a reliable strategy today. Hours are finite. Raises are slow, small, and outside your control. What is inside your control is the skill you carry and what that skill is worth in the market. The truth is, skills compound. Hours do not. An hour worked today is gone tomorrow. A skill built today can be sold for decades. Warren Buffett has said many times that the best investment he ever made was in himself. Specifically, a public speaking course he took as a young man at the Dale Carnegie Institute. He was terrified of speaking in front of people, and he knew that fear would cap his career. The course cost $100. The certificate from it is the only credential he displays in his office. Not his degrees, not his awards, that certificate, because the skill that course developed became the foundation of every business relationship and investment partnership that followed. $100, compounded across a lifetime into one of the largest fortunes in modern history. That is the model, not a course that promises you $100,000 a month. A specific skill, developed deliberately, applied consistently, over a long enough period for compounding to become undeniable. Look at what you already have. You have skills right now, in this moment, that someone in the market is willing to pay for. Writing, design, coding, teaching, analysis, translation, editing, social media, photography, bookkeeping, project management. The list is longer than you think. Most of them can be offered through freelancing platforms without leaving your current job. Spend 2 weeks researching what your skill earns per project on the current market. Then take one small project at the market rate, even if the amount feels small. The first project is not about the money, it is about the evidence. It proves that the income stream is real, that people will pay for what you already know, and that you can operate outside of one employer as a source of income. Do not wait until you feel fully qualified. Most freelance work is done by people who are good at something, not people who are perfect at it. Waiting to feel ready is a form of financial avoidance, dressed up as professionalism. When income increases, resist the reflex to expand your lifestyle to meet it. Route a fixed percentage of any raise, bonus, or side income directly to your financial goals before it is absorbed. If income increases by 10%, direct at least that 10% to debt reduction, savings, or investment before your spending has time to notice. Lifestyle inflation is the thief that eats every raise. Automation is the lock that keeps it out. I have seen skilled people spend a decade waiting for permission before they charged what their skill was worth. Meanwhile, less skilled people were already charging more and building portfolios, reputations, and income streams that eventually surpassed the person still waiting to feel ready. Skill matters, confidence matters, but nothing matters if you never enter the market. This is where most people stop. They read this chapter, they nod, and then they close the book and return to their day, and nothing changes. You are going to do the opposite. Tonight, write down one skill you already have that someone else would pay for. This week, spend 30 minutes researching what that skill earns on one freelancing platform, not to build a business today, only to see the earning potential that already exists inside what you already know. Because once you see that potential, the entire equation shifts. And the next question becomes not just how much you can earn, but how you can earn without trading every hour for every dollar. Chapter 8. Method number 6. The reality of passive income. Passive income is one of the most talked about and least understood financial concepts of our time. On social media, it is sold as income that requires no work. That is a lie, and I want to name it clearly at the top of this chapter, before you spend $1 chasing it. Passive income is not effortless income. Passive income is income that requires significant work once, and then produces returns repeatedly with minimal ongoing effort. The word passive describes what happens after the initial build, not before it. Every real passive income stream requires an upfront investment of either time, capital, or both. Anyone who tells you otherwise is not describing passive income, they are selling something. Dividend-paying stocks require research, capital, and patience. A digital product requires weeks or months to create before it earns anything. A rental property requires purchase, setup, maintenance, and management. A book requires the writing of the book. None of these are effortless. All of them, done well, produce ongoing income for years after the initial work is done. The truth is, passive income streams take longer to build than most people expect, and produce more over time than most people believe possible. Consider Ronald Reed, a gas station attendant and janitor in Vermont, who worked his entire career at a modest wage. When he died at 92, his estate was worth around $8 million, donated almost entirely to his local library and hospital. His method was not exotic. He bought dividend-paying stocks in companies whose businesses he understood. He never sold them. He reinvested every dividend. He let compounding work for 60 years without interruption. By the end of his life, the passive income from that portfolio exceeded his working wage many times over. He did not start with significant capital. He started with patience and consistency. That is the shape of real passive income. Small at first, slow at first, enormous at the end if you do not interrupt it. For most people, 3 passive income categories are the most accessible starting points. Dividend investing, where you buy shares of stable companies that pay a portion of their profits back to shareholders on a regular schedule. Digital products, where you create something once, a course, an ebook, a template, and sell it repeatedly. Real estate investment trusts, where you buy shares of a company that owns and operates real estate, giving you exposure to property income without buying property yourself. Choose one to research this month, not to implement immediately, to understand genuinely. Read 2 or 3 in-depth sources. Be able to explain the basic mechanics to someone else without checking your notes. Understanding must precede action. Every loss I have seen in passive income has come from acting on a strategy the person did not actually understand. Start with whatever amount is genuinely available without creating new strain. Many investment platforms today allow you to begin with amounts most people spend on a single dinner out. The starting amount matters far less than the habit of allocating regularly. $50 a month, invested consistently for 30 years, produces a result that a lump sum without the habit rarely matches. Diversify before any single stream becomes significant. Do not put your entire passive income effort into one stock, one product, one property. Spread the risk while the amounts are small, so that a single failure never wipes out the entire structure. Do not expect passive income to replace active income quickly. The timeline is years, not months. Anyone promising otherwise is selling a fantasy, and the price of the fantasy is usually your capital. Spend 30 minutes this week reading about one of the 3 categories. Write down one specific action that would be required to begin that income stream at the smallest possible starting point. Do not begin yet. Map the first step, so that when you are ready, the path is already clear, because a system with only active income has a ceiling. A system with active and passive income working together has a horizon. Chapter 9. Method number 7. Financial discipline. 6 ways in, and every one of them is a strategy. Budget. Cut leaks. Emergency fund. Debt plan. Earn more. Build passive income. Each of them is powerful on its own. Together, they are the framework of a real financial life. But none of them survive without one final ingredient. And this 7th way is the one that decides whether the previous 6 become permanent or evaporate within a season. Financial discipline. Mog. Haiman. I want to be careful with that word. Discipline does not mean deprivation. It does not mean punishing yourself. It does not mean living a smaller life than you want. Discipline means the daily practice of making financial decisions that are consistent with your defined goals, rather than with how you feel on any given day. The truth is, wealth is not built in dramatic financial moments. It is built from thousands of ordinary decisions made consistently in the same direction over a long enough period. John Jacob Astor, one of the wealthiest men of 19th century America, said it in 8 words. Wealth is largely the result of habit, not talent, not luck, not timing, habit. The same small choices, repeated for decades, until the compound effect becomes visible from the outside as wealth, and from the inside as normal. Financial discipline is not a personality trait some people have, and others do not. It is a daily practice, and anyone can build it with the right structure. Here is the starting practice: 1 no-spend day per month. On this day, you make 0 discretionary purchases. Not because a single day meaningfully changes your annual finances, but because the practice of consciously choosing not to spend for one day builds the psychological muscle that every other financial decision requires. You are not testing your finances on that day. You are training your mind. You are proving to yourself that you can encounter the impulse to spend and choose not to. Once that muscle exists, everything else becomes easier. As the practice becomes comfortable, expand to 1 no-spend day per week. Later, if you want, 1 no-spend week per year. The scale is less important than the consistency. Build discipline into your structure, not into your daily willpower. Willpower is finite. It runs out on hard days. Structure does not. Automated savings do not need to be motivated. Pre-committed budgets do not need to be inspired. Scheduled financial reviews do not need to feel like doing them. They just run, because you set them up to run. Track weekly, not just monthly. A weekly 10-minute review of your spending, your savings rate, your progress on the target debt keeps small drifts from becoming large disasters. A month is a long time to discover you have been off course. Do not treat financial discipline as all or nothing. If you miss a no-spend day, you have not failed. You have data. What caused the miss? Was it stress? Was it a social pressure you had not planned for? Was it boredom on a slow evening? Fix the trigger, not your self-image. Financial discipline that survives imperfection is worth infinitely more than perfect discipline that collapses the first time it is tested. I have seen discipline destroy people when it is turned into a moral test. Every slip becomes proof of failure. Every failure becomes reason to quit. And the quitting is what actually damages the life, not the slip. You are not building a religion, you are building a system. Systems are allowed imperfection. Systems adjust and continue. Schedule your first no-spend day this month. Put it on the calendar as a non-negotiable commitment. Before that day arrives, list the 3 situations most likely to trigger a purchase for you: boredom, stress, social influence. For each, plan a specific free alternative activity: a walk, a book you already own, A phone call with someone you have not spoken to in a while. Preparation is what converts intention into behavior, because with discipline in place, the 6 previous ways stop being strategies you tried once. They become the shape of your life. Chapter 10. Your roadmap to financial freedom. You have the 7 ways. You have the mindset shift. You have the budget, the leaks identified, the emergency fund plan, the debt strategy, the earning path, the passive income direction, and the discipline that binds them together. What remains now is not more information. What remains is the integration of what you already have into a single, connected plan that you can run for the next 12 months, and then the next 12, and then the next. The truth is, the 7 ways are most powerful when they operate as one system, not 7 separate solutions. Look at how they connect. The mindset shift in the first 2 chapters is what makes the budget in the 3rd chapter possible, because a stressed mind cannot hold a plan. The budget creates the visibility that makes the invisible expenses in the 4th chapter possible to see. The savings from those expenses fund the emergency buffer in the 5th chapter. The emergency buffer removes the financial desperation that makes the debt strategy in the 6th chapter emotionally sustainable. Reduced debt creates the income headroom that funds the skill investment in the 7th chapter. Increased earnings create the margin that makes the passive income exploration in the 8th chapter possible. And the discipline of the 9th chapter is what carries all of it across the years that compounding requires. Not 7 strategies, 1 architecture. Benjamin Franklin described his financial philosophy in 2 words: industry and frugality. Work deliberately, spend less than you earn, invest the difference, repeat consistently across decades. He did not have index funds. He did not have online brokerages. He did not have credit cards or dividend reinvestment plans. He had one system, applied with discipline throughout his life. The compound result outlasted him by centuries. You have access to better tools than Franklin ever did. What the tools require from you is exactly what they required from him: consistent, disciplined application over enough time for the compounding to become undeniable. Here is how you begin, without being overwhelmed by all 7 at once. Set one clear financial goal for the next 30 days. Not a year, not a 5-year vision, one measurable, 30-day commitment. Build your 50-30-20 budget and track it for a full month. Identify and cancel 3 invisible expenses. Open the dedicated emergency account and make the first automatic transfer. Complete your debt inventory and choose your method. Any one of those, done fully, is a real month of progress. Then schedule your monthly money review date. 1 specific day per month, where you sit with your numbers: budget performance, emergency fund progress, debt reduction, savings rate, passive income research, skill development activity. Put it on the calendar as a recurring event for the next 12 months. The review is what converts a one-time motivation into a long-term system. Without a review date, the plan drifts. With one, the plan corrects and continues. Mark Twain said it plainly: the secret to getting ahead is getting started. You have the 7 ways. You have the roadmap. The only thing left is the first step. Not all 7 at once. 1 way, 1 month, 1 step. Right now. Choose one of the 7 ways before this audiobook ends and commit to a specific action within the next 48 hours. Not thinking about it, not planning to plan. One specific action within 48 hours. Write it down, set a reminder, do it. The financial life you want is built exactly there, in the first action taken within 48 hours of hearing this. Sit with me for a few minutes before you close this. You just spent an hour or more inside a framework that most people never encounter in their entire adult lives. You now know that money problems are almost never only about money. You know the 3 mechanisms that keep the cycle running, And you can name them in your own life. You have a budget structure simple enough to run for decades. You know how to find the money that has been leaking from your finances without your consent. You know how to build a buffer between yourself and the ordinary chaos of the world. You know how to break debt into a project instead of carrying it as a fog. You know that your income is not fixed by your employer. It is shaped by the skill you carry into the market. You know what passive income actually is and what it is not. You know that discipline is not deprivation. It is direction. And you know how all 7 ways connect into one architecture, one system, one financial life. That is more than most people learn in a decade. Now hear this carefully. Information does not change a life. Application does. You can listen to this again tomorrow. You can take notes. You can highlight the parts that landed the hardest. None of it will matter unless one specific action is taken within the next 48 hours. I am not going to motivate you. Motivation is the least reliable fuel in the human system. It arrives loud and leaves quietly, usually within a week. I am going to tell you the truth instead. The person you will be in 5 years is being decided right now by the small financial habits you either build or refuse to build in the next 30 days. You will not feel the compounding at first. That is by design. Compounding is invisible until it is undeniable. There will be a month, 6 months, or 12 months from now when you will notice, for the first time, that a bill did not cause panic. There will be a moment, 2 or 3 years from now, where you will look at your emergency account and realize that it has been quietly protecting you for longer than you noticed. There will be a year, 5 or 10 from now, where the passive income you started with $50 a month is producing an amount that would have felt impossible on the day you began. None of that arrives from listening. All of it arrives from beginning. This is where most people stop. They finish an audiobook. They feel something. They tell themselves they will start on Monday. Monday becomes next month. Next month becomes next year. Next year becomes never. You are going to do the opposite. Not because you are more disciplined than the average person, because you are going to take one small, specific action within 48 hours. That single action is what separates the listener from the builder. I have seen people rebuild entire financial lives from a starting point far worse than yours. I have seen people with high incomes remain broke for decades because the system was never built. The number is not the story. The system is the story. You now have the system. Be quiet with your money. Be patient with your progress. Be honest with your numbers. Be consistent when it is boring, and especially when it is boring, because boring is the sound of compounding at work. Not theory, lived experience. The first step is yours. Take it.